Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Tapcaf Transmissions. My name is Justin. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Corey.
Hello,
Corey. Hello. And we have a very special guest today, the one and only, as you can see right on the screen, Alex from Star Wars Explained.
Very special guest.
Very special guest. If I had the technology for it, I would put in your intro or something, but it's just not there yet. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself for those who don't know?
Yeah, I like Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I have a YouTube channel.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about Star Wars. I try to keep up with all the new books and comics and shows and whatever's coming out every month and talk about it and just stay on top of the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Partly for selfish reasons, so I can be good at trivia competitions, and partly because now it's my job.
Yeah. So when did you first read, I guess, any X-Wing book or Star Wars Legends? Like, what's your kind of...
I think my first Star Wars book was Shadows of the Empire, because nothing makes a kid want to read like a tie-in with a video game. So
I thought you were going to say pheromones. And
yeah, sexy lizards.
So you heard it here first.
Yeah, I think my first Legends book was 96, so I would have been 9. And then I remember just kind of going back to... I read chronologically, so I started with Truce at Bakura and went. So I hit Rogue Squadron pretty soon after that.
So you basically did our podcast like 20
I did
years
it
before
way before you guys, but I didn't have any friends to talk about it with.
If it makes you
Actually,
feel
that's not... I actually did have a friend who, like, we would coordinate, okay, we're going to read through chapter X tonight and we'll talk about it on the bus tomorrow. So we did kind of do it, but
an even better version of the podcast.
I'm sure it was.
So do you have anything fun coming up in the next little bit? Because obviously tomorrow is the big Disney show, hopefully some Mandalorian stuff. Anything else you want to talk about before we hop right into this lovely book?
Yeah, I'll just give a shout out to DragonCon, because it's the best time of the year, and it's in Atlanta where we are located, and it's just a giant nerd party. It's like no convention you've ever been to before. It's more about like just imagine like a giant Halloween party, but it lasts for 4 nights and it does not stop. Like, I remember the first convention I went to that was a normal convention. I was like, wait, it just stops at 5 and then you have to like go to a bar somewhere else? Like, DragonCon just goes nonstop. So yeah, we're excited to do that, but it has become more and more work related as well. So I'm moderating a couple panels, but this time I'm moderating the Q&A with Jonas Suetamo, who plays Chewbacca. So I'm
new Chewie.
Super excited. Yeah, I'm excited to get to just have some one-on-one time with him in front of like 200 people.
I think my favorite thing about DragonCon, the version of Dark Empire that I have from it's like one of the original runs from the 90s, has ads for like DragonCon 94 or something.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Anyway, Corey, are you going to talk or what?
I have nothing to add right now. I'm just letting this happen.
Okay.
You're the host for this week, so...
I hate being host. I'm so bad at it. But I guess we'll move into the book now, because it's a fun one. I like it. Anything you want to talk about first, Corey, or do you want to?
So the name of the book we're talking about this week is Wraith Squadron. That would be probably a good thing to note to bring up for everyone.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars book. It is once again back in the X-Wing series. So we took a break last episode from the X-Wing series to talk about Darth Plagueis, and we are back with the second half of the X-Wing series is actually written by a different author than the first half. Those are written by Michael Stackpole, and these are written by Aaron Alston. So I guess we should talk a little bit about him before getting into the book too much.
Do we know why the switch was made? Or was it just to bring new like life into the series? Because there's still so much of like Stackpole's Rogue Squadron story left to tell, and I guess some of that was in comics, but yeah. Is there any like information on why the switch was made?
I have no idea.
Was it?
I just assumed it was like Stackpole had a 4-story arc that he was like, this is the story I want to tell, and then maybe he was done. But I don't know.
Yeah, they've always they always were kind of a writing team, so it was probably something that they'd plan themselves rather than Bantam, right? So
yeah, I'm flipping through my essential reader's guide. That's that sound, that slapping sound. If you guys can hear it,
he just gets very excited about X-Wing.
I can't help it.
But-
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Just while you're doing that, so some of the other stuff people may know by Aaron Austin would include he did a third of the books for Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, I think. Was he the only one, or him and Karen Travis were both on both of those?
And or
him and Troy.
No, yeah, Karen Travis was Legacy of the Force only. Then they swapped in. Who did they swap in again for Fate of the Jedi?
I'm not cheating. No one can see that I'm cheating. It was not Christy Golden.
Yeah, not Christy Golden. Yeah, so he did like big parts of Legacy of the Force, but really that's kind of Troy Denning's era, if we're being honest.
Yeah. He also did 2 of the 19 Yuzon Vong War books, so good on him there. But unfortunately, he did die a few years ago, so this episode is dedicated to the memory of Aaron Alston.
I don't know if he'd want that, just like based on what the last episodes have been like.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to get sued by his family.
I never met Aaron, but I have heard so many people say amazing things about him that he was just nothing but the best person ever. So we can at least say that.
Yeah.
He
wasn't his like I guess the illness, or he had a heart attack or something, wasn't it at a convention?
Yeah.
I think I heard.
Yep.
Well, rest in peace. He is sorely missed. These books are great, and I did. Someone in the chat said that Enemy Lines 1 and 2 are the best, or two of the best. I don't know if I agree, but I really appreciate, because even when like later Star Wars stuff, like especially in the Legacy era, kind of got away from starfighter combat, but anytime we'd have an Aaron Alston book, there'd always be rogues or wraiths or somebody in there, and there'd be a bit more focus on starfighter combat. Like I feel like one of the books, oh no, that might be one of Stackpole's books that starts with the simulator in New Jedi Order, but regardless, it's a real shame.
Yeah, him and Stackpole both were basically the go-to starfighter combat authors of the EU, so there's this, and I think is it just Solo Command or Iron Fist and Solo Command after this before getting into...
No, then we've got... just 2 more, and then...
Because there's still Starfighters Matamar and Isar's Revenge, but those come in after...
and Mercy
some
Kill.
Other stuff. Yeah, well, that's
way later.
That's going to be a 2025 podcast for us.
Yeah. So what did you guys? I guess I don't. Alex, you said it's been a while since you've read Rogue Squadron, right? A few years, like the Rogue Squadron arc, I guess.
Last time I read the first 4 books was in, I want to say 2015. So it's been 4 years since I read those, and then I just I can't remember the last time I read Wraith Squadron.
So this question might be a bit more for you, Corey, but what do you think is different in like how Alston writes versus how Stackpole writes?
And that's I've got an answer.
All right,
go for it.
I just think Alston's funnier. Like, or he has a lot more jokes that I think he's writing, and then I think Stackpole is much more serious for most of the time.
There's one really funny joke that stood out to me is when Face is talking to, I can't remember if he's talking to Zinj or one of the other Imperials, and they cut him off, like they just cut him off like mid-sentence, and then Wedge does the exact same thing to him like a minute later. And he kind of like, it's less, I feel like personally that Stackpole goes for a bit more cheesy kind of like Top Gun. I've said that a bunch of times, like Top Gun-esque stuff, which isn't really funny. It's just kind of almost like lighthearted in a way, whereas I found this book was a lot more serious. Like some of the pilots have some pretty brutal deaths, but there is also a lot more kind of direct, funny humor in it with jokes or whatever else.
Yeah, I feel like some of the character development earlier on in Stackpole's books may have been a bit better. But
I agree.
Some of the interactions between the characters end up being better in Alston's.
Yeah, I'd say like I prefer Corrin as a lead
Yeah,
than
over
yeah.
Kel.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Discount Corrin.
Yeah, non-force sensitive Corrin.
Wait, Alex, did you say you disagree?
No, I agree.
Oh,
I
okay.
like Corrin Horn more than Keltainer.
Yeah.
And I'd say the stackable characters definitely see a lot more play later on. The Wraiths do kind of they do see some action, but a lot of it's kind of like in Wraith stories where you see like I feel like you see Corrin especially, but even some of the others like Tycho shows up occasionally in other things. Um, you do like you get that a little bit, but
That
not quite
comes.
as
I think that a lot of that just comes with who they are, or like what the squad is supposed to be.
that's
Whereas like
fair.
Rogue Squadron gets to borrow more from like the original heroism
Mhm.
mythos. It's kind of like Justice League versus Suicide Squad kind of deal, except I guess both
What are
of
we,
those
some
were
kind of
bad.
Wraith Squadron? Yeah.
I
Yeah,
get what you're
that's
saying, though.
fair. Yeah, I guess they're kind of like supposed to be in the background or like, slumming around somewhere.
Yeah,
Not
they're supposed to be the ones that like, uh, if they died, no one would miss them, and they could do all this insertion. They had all these other
Mhm.
skills, but uh, they end up. A lot of them end up redeeming themselves, or just by the end of the book, it makes it seem like the stuff they'd done to get kind of blacklisted and then brought into Wraith Squadron wasn't that bad in the first place,
Mhm.
which was kind of weird. But
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the case with all of them. Like is there anyone who does anything real? I mean like Kel probably shouldn't be flying. Min probably shouldn't be flying. I don't even remember like what is like Fanon. I forget what he did, and some of them, yeah, like it doesn't seem like because there's when Wedge for. So I guess we should give a bit of background maybe before we talk about the pilots.
well, that's kind
Um,
of the start of the book. Is that Wedge has just gotten back from the events of the Back to War, where they've
mhm,
taken down Assad. They're reinstated as part of the New Republic military. And rather than take up his position as the leader of Rogue Squadron, he has this new idea for a squadron that can use all the skills, or that would be
mhm,
better suited for the kind of missions that Rogue Squadron had to do.
yeah,
So
kind
that's
of
when he
like
starts
a
building this.
yeah. So he talks too about when they were kind of creating Rogue Squadron. If two pilots were of equal skill, he choose the one with the better like ground capabilities, like whether they were a sniper or some sort of commando or whatever else. So Rogue Squadron kind of ended up being really effective when they were on Coruscant and doing other missions. But this time around with Wraith Squadron, he wants to make a squad totally of um, people who will be basically top on the ground and then also at least very good starfighter pilots or decent starfighter pilots, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But does he I don't know if he ever really explains why he wants the washouts though. Maybe just because yeah, I don't do you guys remember that? Like why he's going for washouts?
I think because he knows that they'll be more willing to do something so
Mhm.
weird like this that he said they'd like be willing to do anything to get back into a cockpit.
Right, yeah.
And so if they're meant to be more of a ground team, but you'll also get to fly, like
Mhm.
that they'd be into that.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
Wedge largely expected that they would not survive. Was kind of it. He never. It was more of the subtext there that I got out of it. Maybe I was reading more into it than was there, but
mhm.
it seemed like he did expect that this team would not really make it through much.
Hmm. Yeah, he's like right there with them. I don't yeah. I know I kind of felt that too because it's like it is some kind of suicide squad. But but he is right there with them and he like Rogue Squadron has just been incredibly successful. Doing kind of like a very Wraith Squadron-esque thing like operating out of New Republic official capacity, so yeah, interesting. I kind of got that feeling too though.
So the book does kind of follow uh the same broader plot points that Rogue Squadron did at the start, where
Mhm.
pretty much for the first half of the book, if not the entire thing, where you start off with getting together all these pilots and then training them. They have a very similar training mission where you're kind of following after Wedge says that he wants to form the squadron with Akbar, they have the before that they have the kind of victory parade coming back to Coruscant, and they're doing all the competitive starfighter acrobatics with with the new Rogue Squadron. If there's anything you guys want to say about that before we...
I mean, that was all so just the competitive nature of it is so flyboy, and how they just want to show off in front of everyone and like doing stuff that would potentially kill people.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking the whole time. Like, what if someone fucks this up and they just blow up the city?
I had to look up the word airsats because I feel like Alston used it 2 or 3 times, and all it means is like fake. But I was like, who talks like that?
Yeah,
Who
the only
uses
reason I
that
knew
word?
about it was it's one of the titles of one of the series of unfortunate events books. I think we lost Ek.
I figured he'd come back.
Yeah.
I was just gonna try to cover for him.
This always happens when he's the one streaming it. But anyways, yeah.
Alright, sorry about that, guys, and sorry to everyone who was watching this live. Unfortunately, the Eckhart's Ladder household suffered a loss of power, A-wing straight into the bridge, and yeah, my computer's down and I'm recording this now from a mobile phone, so sorry about the loss of audio quality there.
Yeah, we'll try to go probably a little bit shorter, unfortunately, to make sure that he doesn't lose phone battery, but...
Just scream every time you go down 1%.
I got a power pack, so we should be okay for a while, but...
That is some modern technology just coming to the rescue there. All right.
It's cozy now, though, too. Like, I'm all huddled in my office.
Hey.
It's pitch black.
It's my trigger word.
I know, that's why I said it.
Cozy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I described his YouTube channel as cozy once, and it was... I don't want to...
We don't need to get into that.
Yeah, it's old wounds. Not like not the Star Wars old wounds either.
All right, we're not talking about the
I
back
think
door today. We're talking about Wraith Squadron. So...
Yeah. And I think the last thing we talked about before the tragic events of a couple of minutes ago was the formation of the squad, really, and choosing members and whatnot. And I was just wondering whether you guys had like personal favorites or least favorites.
I think Piggy's my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Piggy's pretty great. Runt...
Do you relate to him somehow?
It's just weird.
Do you relate to Piggy somehow? What's going on? Why is he your favorite?
Piggy? I mean, I like that Legends did weird stuff, and I don't think Canon does enough weird stuff, but I like that they were just like, hey, let's have a Gamorrean pilot, and how would that work? And they made it work, and I think that they should swing for the fences a little more in the new books.
Yeah.
I like that we get the reference to the Ewok before we get the Ewok.
Yeah. Ewok pilot. And like a lot of casual racism in that scene too. Not even casual, like overt racism.
Yeah, like come on, Wes, don't be an idiot. This couldn't be happening.
I do love Ketch, like the Ewok thing that cracked me up. Yep, Commander.
Yeah.
And that like became a callback throughout
sort
the rest of the
thing.
story.
It's weird that it became a callback through the rest of the story, even though like 90% of the characters doing it would have had no frame of reference for why that was funny.
I figure off screen they learned about it.
Yeah. But if you're going to have the other non-Wes characters bring it up, maybe just have a scene of Wes mentioning it to someone.
Yeah, I just like how Piggy's like casually dealing with like racism throughout the entire book too. He's got like, I forget if it's which of the rogues it is like takes offense to like being like someone implies that they're like a couple.
Yeah, the
just,
with Fallon I think it is. Yeah. Where he's like, "Oh, well, someone makes a joke that they were just married or That's kind of
Yeah.
the cover. It's like, oh, would you have cared if it was face? And just backs her into a corner.
Which is kind of terrible because they're supposed to be like incognito at that point, and like I forget who does it. It might be
Kel.
like Kel, yeah. And they're supposed to be incognito, and he like literally is drawing attention to them, and he's like a Gamorrean who can speak basic, so it's probably like not a great idea.
I mean, I liked that scene and kind of what it was trying to say, but it never came up again. And I thought
Yeah.
that, oh, maybe we could explore this a little more, and they didn't.
Mhm. Yeah, because they even have like later on they have him being like pretending to be their bodyguard, and there's like would have been some room there for him to like be dealing with, not wanting to be seen like that, but don't really address it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Uh,
he's just like cool to play his part, but I mean, they treat him terribly when he's pretending to be
Oh,
their
yeah.
guard.
Piggy's fun. There's a few like that for me kind of just go under the radar though. Like not a huge fan of like Fanan or Fanan. He's like the one with all the prosthetics. He's allergic to Bacta, which I think is why he makes it into the squad. He doesn't really do much for me. Sand Skimmer, Phelan Sand Skimmer, she's also kind of one of those characters who they sort of set up a bit of like internal struggle or like depth to when for her it's like she's always second and she has a race with Wedge and she's second, she's like second best marksman, second best whatever, and then at the end, spoiler alert, she's killed, and Min, who's another pretty good character, is basically like, she'll never have to worry about being second again. Never, no more self doubt is basically what he says.
He was the one that was like in love with her too, and that was the best thing he could say about her.
Yeah. I feel like the character development for most of the squad mates was better than you got in the later Rogue Squadron books, but it ended up being much worse than Rogue Squadron itself, like the original Rogue Squadron book, where it was about half the squad that never really got much beyond a couple lines. And even Runt, who was kind of set up to be oral number 2, you got a lot of Runt in the first few chapters, but then he was gone until I think 2 mentions in the last couple chapters.
Yeah, he was really just there for the last fight to tell Kell, like, I'm here to talk to your bad brain or whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of bring him back to the panel.
Which is it, and they do something similar with Rogue Squadron too, because they always talk about these like basically these pilots partnering up and teaching each other stuff. Like I'm trying to think of another example, but basically like one squadron member will have some sort of issue, like astronavigation, partner up. In this, obviously Runt has the issue with he's got like multiple personalities basically, and I feel like they could have spent a lot more time with like actually working through, like Kell actually helping him work through that, but instead it's just like, yeah, there's an improvement, but we don't really know why. Like you don't really get that sort of same off battle camaraderie that you do in Rogue Squadron 1, which is why that's kind of still one of my favorites.
Yeah, he gets over it very quickly. Like once Kell has to give all of his points to Runt, it's like the next time they fly together, it's like, hey, you look like you really got that under control. And he's like, yep, that's it.
My big horse brain figured it out, no problem. That's one thing we were talking about before we started recording too. The book, basically some more of Aaron Alston's Star Wars Alien Xenophobia, where he says Runt has features like a draft animal, except for the luminously intelligent eyes. And like that's really insulting. Like why, just because he's horse shaped, does that mean that he looks like a draft animal?
It's one of those weird things where like yeah, it's racist in universe, but is it in real life? Like I don't know.
From
I don't know the
human
answer. Like yeah,
probably not.
Yeah, but like he's just trying to describe that this alien looks like a horse.
Yeah.
And so that we understand it. But yeah, in the context of Star Wars, it's like, oh, look at Horsehead over there. Like, it's obviously
Idiot.
a terrible thing to say.
Should be plowing a field instead of flying a starfighter.
They talk about that a lot with Piggy too, where it's like, no, that's not an insult in this squad because
Yeah.
it
was an insult before.
Yeah,
Come
the
on.
people were insulting Porkins when they called him Piggy.
He was a fat dude with the last name Porkins. Like,
Yeah, and they're like,
don't
no,
act like
he
this was
loved it.
not bullying just because the guy's dead now.
He's just not around to say like, "Hey, I hated it when you called me Piggy."
yeah. After he left that interview, Wedge and Wes just like, ugh, like, we gotta cover this shit up. It's gonna be a problem someday.
This is how we avert all HR problems.
No, Piggy wanted it.
That squadron list that Corrin maintained of all the attractiveness levels of everyone in the galaxy, everyone was super on board with that. And Kell is maintaining that long time-honored tradition
Of randomly being super aggressive with women, you mean?
Well, that and also giving a not quite as clear of a list as we got with Corrin, but there was the clear Tyria is tier 1, and let's obsess over her. But other characters didn't quite get the same treatment, so that's nice.
Yeah. But it's not like, so, Alex, when we were rereading, I guess we should explain this Corrin's tier list thing. When we were rereading the X-Wing books, whenever there's like a woman that joins the squad or is anywhere relevant, Corrin will literally rate her attractiveness compared to another woman. So you can actually go through and like rate 4 of the women based on like how Corrin perceives them, because that's just how
Why
Star Wars
haven't
books were
you
written
done
in the
this
90s.
video yet? You
most
need to make
attract-
that video. Oh, that's funny.
Well,
All in
rank
caps.
1 was a Salonian, so
Oh yeah,
The ugliest member of Rogue Squadron.
Why Corrin thought this Rogue Squadron member was the ugliest, all caps.
That's terrible.
But yeah, this book gets a little bit away from that. It's a little bit less like talking about, like, kind of grossly talking about cleavage and stuff, and a little bit more. It's less like silly than the original 4 books.
it doesn't go to it as often, but the whole Kell and Tyria subplot is not fantastic.
That comes out of nowhere. Because they don't like you feel bad for Tyria, because like she's at one point she thinks she's the only woman in the squad, and then they get Phelan. But she's like, God, this is always what happens, because she's being hit on by like 3 dudes. Fannin, I think another guy, and then later he tells her he's in love with her, and she's just like straight up like, how much did you think about me today? And like the dude is so dumb, he doesn't even lie about it. He's like 30 minutes tops.
And he's like, nailed it.
He's like, oh yeah, I got this one, baby. She's like,
She'll be
rolls
so
her
flattered.
eyes.
Later on, after she explains that to him, then he's just like, okay, I gotta make a mental note to think about her more. He just completely misses the point. And then finally, towards the end of the book, when they finally decided, like, oh, you're right, I wasn't really in love with you. She's like, oh, that was a test. You've passed. I was in love with you the whole time. And then they have a kid together.
But he never asked how much she thinks of him.
That's true. That is a fair point.
That's a very fair point. Kell has a lot of those like moments where he just like seemingly realizes something for like kind of BS reason. Like when he realizes Wes isn't like a total murderous douchebag because he heard him saying some stuff about, he heard him basically hiding Min's condition, or him and Wedge were conspiring to hide Min's condition. It's like Wes was being like not a bro, but he wasn't a bad guy through the entire book. He's just like, he's so weird, because that scene to me is just so funny. Later on in the book, so as a bit of backstory, Wes kills Kell's father, because Kell's dad was basically like deserting in the middle of a battle, so Wes had to shoot him down or else they'd give away his position And then later on, so throughout the whole book, Kell kind of thinks that Wes has it in for him and is like some cold-blooded murderer. And then later on, he's working like up in the ceiling, like changing a light fixture or something. And he hears Wes and Wedge talking, and he jumps down off the ceiling and like confronts Wes, and it's like, okay, we're cool now. And then he just jumps right back in the ceiling.
That was such a fucking weird scene. He literally jumped straight back up into the ceiling.
Yeah, like a monkey or something.
How does he have that much lower body strength?
It's like some Naruto shit.
I was about to try to defend Kel and be like, I mean, he's probably a teenager and he's just like thrown into this adult situation and he's trying to figure out how it all works. But no, he's like 27 at this point.
Same age as Wedge, basically.
Like, he's way too old for this.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was in, like, they kind of retcon him into Rogue Squadron, like the other books, because he was a commando, kind of attached to Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, so I guess we should mention with right after Wedge has his meeting with or the original scene where Wedge is having his meeting with Akbar about making Wraith Squadron, where he wants to make a squad that is like Rogue Squadron but more ground focused. We see Mendonos, who is one of the other eventual Wraith Squadron members, as the leader of a training squadron, Talon Squadron, and they get pretty much eviscerated by
Trigget?
By Akbar Trigget, yeah, and what we later find out is Soontir Fells, 181st, and totally not someone else pretending to be Soontir Fell, but everyone else in his squadron dies. It's just him and his R2 left, so that's what leads up to Wes and Wedge having to cover up for anything, because he has like full-on PTSD mental breaks during the book, and
like understandably too.
Yeah. And Wes and Wedge are basically looking for any reason not to strip him of ever being able to fly again, and that's what Kell overhears. And up to this point, Kell would just be like frozen and assuming that Wes is just going to shoot him for the smallest infraction. Like, there's even a part where Kell is told to fix parts on Nightcaller, the Corellian Corvette they're stationed on, and he just assumes that is Wes and Wedge getting back at him, even though he's literally in the squad as a demolitions expert / mechanic. He's literally just told to do his job, and he thinks it's a personal attack.
Yeah.
He acts like a teenager, and that's why I'm like, oh my god, he was 27? What?
Yeah.
Time to grow up, Kel.
Well, the New Republic like desperately needed like some sort of mental health training because the way they treat Min, for example, is just like they literally find out when they're about to form Wraith Squadron that his entire squad has been wiped out, and then like as they're forming it, they're like, well, I'm sure he's ready for a new squad, like, and then like he's having these like emotional breaks, and they're like, just give him some time. Like, he's got serious like PTSD, like crippling, because like he loses his entire squad. He's the only surviving member, and I mean it's pretty brutal. One of the deaths is he's with like his wingmate, and she tries to eject from her. I don't remember what they're flying, an X-wing maybe, and the canopy closes, and he just sees her like smash against it and die, and then like, yeah, maybe he's not cool to start like fighting again.
Yeah, and
maybe
Wedge basically asks Akbar for people who will have gone through stuff like that, or were like next to being thrown out of the unit or thrown out of the military entirely. And he does literally nothing to account for that the entire time he's playing the squadron. It's basically left to all of them to fend for each other, and it's just really bad planning. It's kind of like that scene in The Simpsons.
Like...
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
It's kind of like the thing in The Simpsons where Mr. Burns is going to the doctor. Like, you have every disease, and they're all trying to shove through the door at once.
It's the only thing keeping you alive.
Even the slightest thing that sets it off balance will kill you. Indestructible.
You're saying Wraith Squadron only functions because they're all so broken, basically.
Yeah. the fact that like when Min is having his later breakdown, that the rest of the squadron, everyone else just forces him into the simulator to force him into
Yeah,
think he's in Talon Squadron. They wait for that to happen, and then they start like talking to him as the rest of his squad mates, like, "Oh, forgive yourself," and then
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they
it's just horrible.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but they must have
Yeah.
just pulled him out of bed, carried him, shoved
He
him
doesn't
into the
really
simulator
explain
while he
it.
was comatose. Like that's so messed up.
Yeah, it's like imagine like you're like in I don't know like a Vietnam veteran and all your buddies died and you wake up one morning you're like you're in the middle of the jungle with you know your old blown up buddies being like, oh, you must forgive yourself. Like it's not how that works. I don't think. Seems like it would make it way worse.
Well, not for Mendonos.
No, he does kind of snap out of it, and then at the end, because Min and Sand Skimmer kind of start a little thing together, and then he loses her pretty quickly after they start to give into their feelings, and he's like, I'm kind of over it though. I just killed the dude. And
Yeah, as soon as there's like a certain threshold everyone in the squadron needs to meet, and then they're fine. Like as long as they meet those minimum requirements, all their problems are solved and it's all good. Like for Kel, he just needed to be allowed to run away from a battle at
Just
some
once.
point, and
Just like
then he's
a
good.
little.
Yeah. Like don't worry,
It's like a
you're all gonna
bootstraps
die.
thing.
Half the squad died in this battle, but you know what? I went for a walk and we're all fine now.
Yeah, it's honestly, and like Wedge doesn't really understand because obviously Kel's got some like serious anxiety issues, and the way he deals with that is just by coming in and like yelling at him. It's like pull yourself up
Yeah.
by your bootstraps, basically.
I don't like you very much right now either.
Have you tried not being sick or not being stupid? Like,
There's
No.
people in the squadron with actual problems.
yeah. It's like, what do you? Yeah, he basically hospital shames him.
Yeah.
Medical treatment shames him.
I don't believe mental health is a thing.
That's basically it. But yeah, so they kind of get this band of misfits together, but it kind of works out pretty good. The first battle, I think that they do basically as well as Rogue Squadron did in their well, not quite as well, but because they never are really against the same kind of odds that Rogue Squadron is. But I forget how many fighters they're going against in their first one.
I mean, they had a Star Destroyer coming at them.
Oh right, it would have been the defense of Fuller, right? Is that
Fuller?
the first?
Yeah.
So basically, they're stationed in this, like, is it a moon? Is Fuller's a moon of Commodore?
Of Commodore, yeah.
Right. So they're stationed in this moon, and the moon actually appears in the first book of the series too, and it's just basically they train in there. That's where Corrin did like his run, and he gets pissed off because they steal his data and stuff. I think that's actually where the series opens, Fuller, I guess. But
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, Wraith and Rogue both get trained in or both get formed in the same place, and they do some similar setup scenes with that, where you get Corrin being upset about his scoring, and then you get Cal kind of being in the same situation where he's paired with Runt, who is really bad at everything. Like he has multiple minds that one will take over, and you get whatever score your wingman gets. So Runt gets Kel's score, and
0.
Kel gets 0 because of
yeah.
Runt. So you get basically the exact same little sequence where Kel is upset about the score he got.
And then Wedge, or in this case West, is just like, well, you learned something today, didn't you? And they're like, I guess so.
That I'm a
And then
dick.
the squad-
And then he walks
I
off.
guess.
So then they're planning. I guess their next thing they're doing is, I guess it starts off being like a test for their astronavigational abilities, and then it turns into when they're out there, Jasmine Akbar, who's Admiral Akbar's niece, and the communications expert of the team, she kind of figures out that there is a Star Destroyer coming. So what was originally an astronavigational exercise turns into a defense of the plane.
Well,
Or the-
before we get into that too much, just with Wedge's general training style, does he just turn into more of a dick with this book?
Yeah, I think so.
Because with Rogue Squadron, after he did that to Corrin, he pulls him into his office like, "You see what I was doing there?" and kind of explains what the lesson was. But with Wraith Squadron, he's just like, "Yeah, sucks to suck, nerd."
Yeah, and he beats Sandskimmer in a race, and he's like, "Well, got you, didn't I?"
Don't call me old again.
Yeah. Now you
Come
know,
on,
now you know
Wes.
to cheat.
Go hang out
Yeah.
with the cool kids.
He just like rationalizes why you're allowed to cheat. The Empire won't play fair, Missy.
See, Fallon, if I hadn't cheated, I would have lost. Now do you see what I'm trying to show you?
He's very brutal about it. He's like, just like the example he uses. He's like, when the Empire shoots through your canopy and blasts your guts all over your X-wing, and I've got to clean it out by hand, will you be mad that they cheated?
Yeah.
So he's just like, Jesus Christ.
When your
Like,
squad mate ejects their seat, isn't that right, Donos?
Yeah.
Donos, what do you think about fair?
Yeah.
He's just lying there
just, like,
curled up in a
paling.
ball.
There's also that scene
Okay,
when Darillion is like mashed onto the ceiling of Nightcaller. He's like, "Hey, Donos, remind you of anyone?"
Oh yeah.
That also shows some. We were talking earlier about Kells' amazing jumping abilities. In that scene, what's his name? Vroot or Vort. I mean, basically jumps up, somehow climbs a TIE fighter and jumps through the ceiling. So there's some pretty unreal jumping abilities in this entire book, and it's just something that I thought was really important to share with you.
Yeah, so they are evacuating Folor. They need to make some extra time because I think it's called Borleus, the last transport. It's having engine issues, so they kind of come up with a plan to lure the Star Destroyer to the other side of the planet, where is it Runt that goes with Kel, and then the two
'Cause
Blue
they're
Squadron
wingmates.
pilots,
Yeah.
and they
Because Runt saves him on the way.
decide to impersonate Han and Leia, where they're trying to make a juicier target for Apwar to go after, and they're just horrible actors, but they're able to kind of spoof the nav signal.
Yeah, and then Star Destroyer turns around, everything is Gucci, and then they run back through the trench, and that's when like Runt's, I guess it's like a third personality. I think he calls it his student personality or something, or his
Yeah,
comes through and kind of leads him through the explosions and stuff, and basically Runt takes him to safety because I think he's pretty much ready to die at that point. Because he's like, Kel doesn't really have like a fear of, because throughout this whole book he's dealing with like anxiety, and he like sometimes he's unable to perform. But I think it's mostly related to when people are relying on him, more so than like a fear of death. So like, for some reason, once he's kind of accomplished what he needs to do, then kind of pressure's off and he's able to escape and he feels good. But then throughout the book, whenever he needs to do something and people are relying on him, even if it's just like fix the ship, he starts getting like really stressed out.
yeah, he's waiting for failure, and then he's waiting for Wes to kill him for his failure.
Yeah.
So he was washed out because of several like mechanical failures, and
Yeah,
so I want to make sure I was understanding that those were all user error, right? That was
Yeah.
him
yeah.
getting freaked out.
He seems to suck when he's not in the simulator, because even when I think his first time flying is like he's like, oh, they're shaking, and then he's successful and he.
Yeah, like they really focus when he's in the first simulator run on being like, oh well, why are all these other people nervous? This is just a sim. But then you get to the actual flying mission, and he's just frozen for the first few seconds at least before they actually get engaged.
So, I guess after they manage to turn away the Star Destroyer, they do the kind of rendezvous they were planning anyway with the astronavigation test or whatever. And by the way, of course, it's Piggy, who's at like genius level intelligence because of some test performed on him by the Empire. They end up getting pulled out of hyperspace by these. They're kind of like a few different kinds of a few different kind of mines. They have like interdiction capabilities, but they also ping an enemy ship when they pull somebody out, and they let off like a really powerful ion burst to fries entire ships. And this scene was like the one that was for me most different from Rogue Squadron, because they're kind of like sitting in space and they're like trying to figure out a way to save themselves, and it's kind of like the whole point of Wraith Squadron is they're supposed to be able to think on their feet and do stuff like this, and it's the first time you really see them come together and kind of create a pretty crafty situation to get out of it, or a pretty crafty way to get out of their situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Wedge basically just asks Kel if he's ever seen anything like it or if he knows what it is, and Kel pretty much rebuilds the mine out of everything it did, and he kind of infers that there would be the communication burst to let whoever know that it had gone off, because basically the mine is supposed to be a trap. It goes off, shuts the ships down that come in. It's put at a place that a ship is likely going to jump into the system, so it could be a bit less powerful, and then it just alerts whatever ship to come and deal with whatever's left. So they start making a plan to deal with whoever's going to go check on their remains, which they assume is probably going to be Implacable itself, but instead Nightcaller, a modified Corellian Corvette, comes out, which is mostly just a Corellian Corvette that's been turned into a light carrier.
Yeah. And like a mine layer too, I think.
Yeah, so they come up with a plan on how they're going to get into whichever ship whatever ship comes after them, where they're going to try to insert one person, Piggy, while the rest of them kind of play dead. And
it's a pretty ridiculous plan too.
Yeah, and in the middle of space they build this device, the Lunatic.
Just like a Gundam, basically. I put in my notes, it's like this is the closest Star Wars will have to getting Gundams.
It was just like a coffin with a laser cannon on it, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, basically. With like, he's got like, it's one thing about this book though is they're able to do such like advanced mechanical stuff so quickly. He's like, yeah, we've somehow managed to bring the like or like the electronic countermeasures packages installed in here. We've got satellite TV. We've got boosters attached to your datapad. We've got a big ass gun.
And an astromech droid, right?
Yeah, and an astromech. Yeah. But for me, I was a bit confused about that because initially it seemed like their plan was to get like whoever was in there kind of sucked up by the tractor beam and brought into the hangar, and then they would do whatever damage from in there. But I think later, when it actually comes to it, Piggy kind of just shoots himself in there, right? Like with the rocket or the thruster, and because like why would a ship like suck that coffin in? Like if it was a starfighter, it makes sense. But if it was like a dead person, it would make sense. But why would they just suck in a piece of space debris?
Right. I think the original plan was to make it look like space debris, and they would just collect all of it. But then they were like, they would scan and see someone live. So then, yeah, Piggy. That's why they needed the astromech droid, so it could help make like calculations and adjustments for the lift.
Piggy's like, let me do it. I'm thick, and he's like clapping his ass, like winking at them. He's like, humans might not like it, but like this thickness comes in use. Just,
that's how I have that in my notes as like weird flex that for you humans all this extra fat would be seen as undesirable, but for me. Yeah, Piggy goes in there and basically wrecks the entire crew of the CR-90 while they're also assaulting it from their X-Wings, what's left of their X-Wings. Yeah. And like the captain, Zerel Dorelian, is pretty much literally scraped off the ceiling by the time they're done.
Yeah. Because they've got like this modified X-Wing, because they take the blaster cannon, one of the X-Wing, like break it down to its component parts, kind of make it into a weapon that Piggy carries, and he blasts through the ceiling and accidentally
Obliterates
smooshes one
a
of
person.
the yeah, like no regret or anything. all his big Gamorrean cheeks are clapping throughout the ship. That's
It's
how
a
I
power.
know. I don't know. It's not canon.
No, it's Legends.
um,
This is
But yeah, so
it needs to be turned into one of those animatics they were doing for all the best moments of Star Wars history.
oh yeah, just like one of
Piggy
the
twerking.
galaxy. Yeah,
Twerking while blowing up a CR-90 from inside.
Gamorreans are so thick though, because they're like pear shaped. Like this, you might not like it, but Gamorreans are peak performance. Like because Piggy is fast, he's strong. Between
Absolute
him and
unit.
yeah, absolute Gamorrean unit. Him and Hohash, they're the like
Beasts
just
of burden.
nasty. Yeah, beasts of burden. That's right. Um, there's got to be some fan. I'm gonna looking up Hohash fan fiction after this.
Oh God.
I'll talk about it next time.
I'm pretty sure that's just like the third episode of Tapcaf, right?
Yeah. Basically.
So they get the Nightcaller and Grinder, their Bothan Slicer, with a name that's only aged well.
Most subtly like gay, like Squadron in the New Republic.
So he realizes they haven't sent. There was no time for them to send out any indicator that they got attacked. So as far as Zinj's fleet is concerned, Nightcaller is still doing its job, and they have all their information on what the Nightcaller was supposed to be doing next. So Wraith Squadron basically commandeers this CR-90, stations themselves on it, and because it was modified into a carrier, they have room for all their X-wings, and they basically started going along the predetermined route for
It's like strong arming
Nightcaller.
people.
Yeah.
Basically.
So they're doing what Zinj said. For anyone that is kind of like reluctantly going along with what Zinj was having them do, they were just trying to get information from. And for anyone who is like clearly enthusiastic about serving Zinj, they just send the information back to the New Republic, and then Rogue Squadron and other New Republic elements would come in and just wreck them. And no one really caught on within Zinj's fleet to what they were doing for a while. Just, this is curious. Everywhere that Nightcaller goes, the New Republic is suddenly attacking.
Weird how they got X-wings in their hangar. At one point, is it just me? Do I misremember this, or do they like tape panels on the side of their escape craft inside their hangar at one point?
No, they definitely did that to make it look like the missing TIE fighters.
Right. So, but that's kind of weird because when the hangar, because it seems like the hangar could open and close at will. Because like there's a bunch of scenes where they talk about it opening.
Well, they were putting those ones on the escape pod racks.
Yeah.
Because they were still converting that for use as a as the actual hangar, because they had a lot more starfighters, and they were all. One of the best subplots of the book is how concerned everyone is about flying in and out of the hangar.
Yeah.
They did do a lot of construction.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though. It reminded me of like Rogue Squadron 1, how a lot of the book is about like, or sorry, X-Wing 1. How a lot of the book is about like them getting assets and like getting their squadron together and like getting new bases and stuff. And this was like they've got this ship and they constantly make upgrades. They got new fighters and it's like how are they going to use the assets they have? Who's going to use the TIE fighter for this mission? Who's going to use the X-Wing? Who's going to be in the Lambda? I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so they one of the things they make is so they have Garrick Face Lauren, a famous Imperial or famous former child star and actor extraordinaire who takes up the role of Zura Duralian using the assistance of a deepfake program made by Grinder the Slicer to project Duralian's face. He like 3D models Duralian, and it's like those old programs where you could like have a whatever animated character take your face in a webcam. They do that with Duralian so we can talk to Tridget and Zinj.
It's so funny. I put deepfake as notes too.
there's the most over-the-top caricature of an Imperial officer, and Apwar and Zinj are both like, no, this is definitely that guy.
Yeah.
You wound my
But-
pride, Apwar.
Yeah. And then later he has like that part where he's talking about his secret love for Isard. I thought that was
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
she smelt of musky.
And that's to get Triget back into believing
yeah.
it's all real. Like,
That was when
so
he forgot
over
the best way to lead line,
Yeah.
I think it was.
the best way to
Yeah.
follow is to lead.
Right.
What do they call that again? Like a secret. There's a word for that. It's like a secret code that is like signifies that you're a member of an in group.
Yeah.
Like, you know in Inglourious Bastards when they do the what's it called? Like, you know, like in Inglourious
Shibboleth.
Bastards when he puts up his shibboleth, yeah. He puts up like a 3, but he does it the American way, or like
Yeah.
3 fingers instead of the shibboleth.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't listening to you when you were saying that. I was too distracted by how fucking hot Isar is.
Smelled like freshly cleaned stormtrooper armor. And it's funny too, because the other Imperial is basically like, that is what she's like, because he had met her when he was young, when he was still a child star. He says like, his knowledge of Isard convinced me basically. He's like, yeah, she smelled like pine sol.
I just remember reading that like this is never gonna work, and then it worked. And I was like, oh my god. I thought it was like a good finally like Triget's caught on and we're gonna get into that. But nope.
They get all that weird off-character acting for Darillion, and then they have the battle where someone has clearly tipped the New Republic off. They have Darillion's ship getting followed by the New Republic, and not once do they consider, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No wonder they lost the war.
Yeah, seriously. I gotta say though, the whole scheme they make up to basically avoid hanging out with the other ship crew is like so over the top and ridiculous. It's like
Yeah.
they don't want to go out for coffee, so they like
Let's
go down
engage
to
in
this
biological
world.
warfare.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, okay, they want to come visit us. What's the only option we have? Poison their whole crew with a biotoxin and steal TIE fighters. It's like, could you not have just like...
Kel's
Like,
like,
I
maybe
don't
we
know.
could try something else, and Wedge is like, no, it's the only way.
You know what would have been a lot easier than that? Just telling them that their ship was infected.
Yeah, we're all sick.
Diarrhea. It's not good.
It's everywhere.
It's like the excuse. If you ever just self-admit that you have diarrhea, people will just
No
be
one's going
so-
to question that.
Yeah. Like, oh shit, man. All right, well, maybe next time. Just like get the coordinates wrong or something. Like, I don't know. It's got to be a better situation than that. Because it's like a whole. It's a whole thing too. Because they've got to make disguises to go down this planet. They break into a high-tech disease research facility. Like,
That's like 100 pages of the book, too.
yeah.
But
Wedge is like dressed up as a yokel with like a Minnesotan accent. Oh yeah, he says.
Oh yeah, that I did like that.
where
the
can we
three
find the
Yokel
wives?
brothers.
Yeah.
But they
Good.
initially, when they're following along their route, we get the first loss of a Wraith Squadron member. There's a scene where Jessamine Akbar is talking to Admiral Akbar about how maybe if she listens to Wedge, she'd have no reason to cause him that grief of losing a niece. It's like, okay, you're immediately
Yeah,
going to
you
die,
know.
aren't you? So they go to MZ9. I can never remember. It's in Thrawn's Revenge, but I can never remember.
How can you never remember that random 4 character designator?
But anyways, there are some pirates there, and the pirates attack Zinj's forces. Like, okay, this is a clear sign that we need to kill all of them because they're in for Zinj.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Why didn't they just leave? Like, okay, sweet. Like they don't like Zinj.
Yeah,
Cool.
but instead they decide to fight them all. They were beating all the fighters, and then some artillery rolls up on a cliff and
Yeah.
nukes Akbar.
You're in a starfighter, fly above them. Like, um, Akbar's got a really shitty life in Legends. Like worse than canon.
Hmm.
Cause like
Jasmine or Gial?
Admiral Akbar.
Okay.
Yeah. Like he gets blamed for blowing up that like he gets blamed for like a massive tragedy and when when he's
Vortex?
framed, yeah, the Tower of Glass or whatever. He gets like screwed up by Thrawn during the Thrawn campaign. Mon Calamari gets bombed like no less than 35 times. Um,
And then
he
it's
finally
water
has,
poison.
yeah, he finally has some retirement. The Yuuzhan Vong invade, and he like dies before they get ultimate victory. It's
Cian
just like,
Sov is too incompetent to do his job without him.
it's just like a goddamn shame. Like
It's a
guys off screen too. They're like Akbar's dead. Oh, shit.
Is it Dark? No, it's the Jedi Academy trilogy when Leia's on Mon Calamari looking for, then ends up finding Silgal, and her and Silgal
Yeah.
are, because Akbar is or trying to stay out of everything. It's like,
Yeah, that's after.
come to
his,
my labs,
after
Leia. Welcome.
the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, it's like his self. That's his self exile after.
Want
the
to
whole
see some
scene.
algae?
Yeah, there's just lots of bad shit that happens to him. Like he doesn't have a good go. He really doesn't. No loved ones besides his one niece who's like brutally killed.
Well, Silgal
Scraped
is
across.
related to him in some way, but no one seems to care.
Oh yeah, that's
But yeah, so Silgal, or not Silgal, Jasmine. Jasmine is getting blown up. Kel tries to save her by like hooking his wing into her wing to try and like loop and slow her down, but her inertial compensator, which basically reduces all the G-force, has
G-force.
broken, and she's just knocked unconscious, so she can't pull out of anything. And she ends up crashing into the planet, and Kel blames himself, thinking that he should have been able to save her. And the rest of the book is just waiting for someone to kill him or tell him how much he sucks for not being able to save her. Even though he gets like a Medal of Honor and Akbar personally thanks him.
Yeah. At one point, Wedge is like, "Don't blame yourself. Blame the imp who shot her down, or sorry, the pirate who shot him down, or the Empire for making us do this,
Or blame her
body for failing and not being able to maintain consciousness." I was like, "Jesus Christ, Wedge!
Yeah.
Like, she's just dead. She's still smeared across the surface."
Blame her for not being a very good pilot, Kel. She deserved this. Look me in the eye,
What if
Kel.
what if it got racist again? Like, blame her stupid fish eyes.
She can't see straight. She can't.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Speaking of fish eyes, we don't get many. There's a couple things we don't get in this book. We have no Tapcaf references, and that's. I went back and checked, and this is the second one, including Bakura, where there's none. And we have no Akbar water metaphors. And generally, I
Actually-
thought Akbar wasn't written very well. Not to the same degree. And I didn't think Akbar was written that well in this one. Didn't seem
So,
like it.
one of the better subplots of Tapcaf Transmissions as a podcast is that Eckhart gets annoyed by any mention of Corellians and odds, and I do as well because it comes up a lot. In this book, that
second
gets
book.
subverted, where the only mention is where at some point Wedge says even a Corellian would listen to those odds.
They still can't goddamn control themselves, even if it's just one. Like,
But early on in the book, when they're talking about all the candidates for the pilots, there is a Quarren named Triagor Sluss. And do we know what happens to Triagor Sluss?
no. What happens?
He was washed out.
Okay, Corey. I don't know if that's a water reference.
It absolutely. That was a clearly chosen word for the Quarren.
I think you're right, because I think I did take a note of that. I do like at the end, though, how Akbar is, like, standing on the beach, just, like, looking, like, sadly at the ocean. He like wants to go swimming basically. Like he's like waiting for someone to like be like, go on, like take a dip. Like he's been spending his day like in a hot room on the freaking I don't know, a big like slightly damp room on home one. He just wants to go for a goddamn swim.
I love every scene between Wedge and Akbar in these books. I don't know what it is. Just every time they talk to each other, it's great. And one of my notes was just the friendship between Wedge and Akbar is great, but later on in the book, Wedge is like, we're not friends, but I do respect it.
Yeah. Let me believe, like,
Yeah,
don't being friend, but he's
don't
just
take
like,
this
no.
away from me, Wedge. I'm not Kel. I don't deserve your derision.
I don't even remember where we were in the plot.
So, Jasmine just died.
Yeah, right.
And right after that, they are still following the route, and we end up at the mission to get with all the transparent steel.
Oh yeah. They need to blow that up for some reason.
Actually, I think that was before Jasmine died, but either way.
Probably. I don't remember. Oh yeah, her skills like communications, right? I don't remember if she helped.
Was it on that mission or Storinol where Fallon gets to flip over a TIE fighter? She got to be the first person to flip over a TIE fighter.
I don't remember, to be honest. All the missions kind of like the missions do the same thing that like the X-Wing books do before now. They kind of don't advance the plot a lot. It's just like so to me they kind of run together because it's just like this is thing that happens. If you skip those sections, it doesn't impact your ability to understand the book.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the character development, but
yeah, exactly.
So I guess that does bring us to when we're starting to hear about getting together to attack in the preparation for what ends up being the Battle of Marobe, where they end up on Storinol for their mission to get the biological warfare agents, and I believe they needed 2 more TIE fighters so they could restock the Nightcrawler's complement and not have their cover blown too early.
Yeah. So they want a disease that will go through the other crew, but they don't want it to be too serious because they don't want people to get sick. But, like honestly, you probably could just like taken a crap in like the ship's vents or something,
Jesus.
or like I don't know, just like gave one of the crew members pink eye or something. Like there'll be easier ways than break into like a high tech like thing with like a high tech disease containment building with like a attached nuclear bomb that will go off. Like,
and they almost screw up the TIE fighter section too, because Face ends up saying eyeballs. They've got 2 eyeballs coming back, which is the New Republic fighter jockey term for TIE fighters.
Like that, yeah, that was pretty.
Well, that one they actually did catch on, and they Face was like, "We've been made." So those guys are a lot smarter than Trigget.
Yeah, there was a scene that was in the original edition of the book. I don't know if anyone still has that copy. Where after that happens, Face just starts talking about how hot Asard is, but it didn't work this time.
Dude, have you seen the legs on old Iceheart there? And they're like, oh. Like,
did you know she has a blue eye and a red eye?
He's right. She does. It must be him.
That checks out.
Someone check the HoloNet. We gotta see if that. Yeah. That whole like, it seems like they're kind of enjoying their time on the what's the planet called again? It's like resort world, I guess. Yeah, because like Wes is like, yeah, I'm gonna go order room service, and some of the other like Wedge and the others are like buying rounds and stuff. I'm sure they're not actually drinking or anything, but
oh yeah, and they were putting it all on the New Republic tab.
Yeah. It's like, hold on, what's Frisky Bothans 3? Like, Wes, what did you buy? How did that advance the mission?
Corin suggested it.
Yeah.
We also get before around the time of this and the later climactic battles, we get a bit more of the prank wars that go on in the squadron, where we later find out is Grinder doing it. But one of the pranks is like a blow up doll with a knife attacks Fallon when she's.
That was
like
such
a
a
real
weird
knife.
subplot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like something where you were supposed to be like, who's doing the pranks? But I kept forgetting that pranks were happening until a prank
Yeah.
happened, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's going on.
It came up like twice, and it was such a minor thing until you get to what is supposed to be the culmination of all these
Psychological
plots.
warfare.
But you have these weird several page digressions with Grinder about this worm. Like, okay, why is this all being shoved in now? And then he gets like vaporized by a turbo laser. It's like, oh, this is why.
We also talk about the fact that he's always like walking around naked.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
he
weird.
answers
Well,
his
so
door
is
and he's just
Chewie.
answering the door and he's hanging dong. That's true, but Chewie has some modesty because it's
I don't
like,
think
it's
Wookiees have
Bane
genitals.
Trust me, they do.
Oh, they have genitals.
So you should be thankful I got that fur.
Have you seen that Robot Chicken sketch where they go meet Chewie's family and they open the door and everyone's wearing like full suits and dresses and stuff? And Han's like, what the hell?
No, but that sounds hilarious. Chewie, you freak. But Fanon's like, are you gonna wear a towel this time? So like, I don't know. That's like, you shouldn't be doing that to your squad mates. Like,
Fanon,
don't.
what do you know about this? Why aren't you wearing pants? There's no time.
At least put your hand down, Jesus. Nasty old Bothans. That's a classic Bothan power move too. You know, Boris Falia one day just showed up in the Senate, just like, it's my tradition, baby. Who's gonna call me on it?
Like, yeah, this is just what Bothans do. You racist.
We swore an oath of Trevi, which means, first of all, loyalty. Second of all, no pants every second Monday. Get used to it.
Grinder's family swore our cry against pants.
I wonder if there's any, speaking of Bothans, the Bothan families tend to be very interconnected. I wonder how far you have to go to connect Grinder and Borskfalia.
Dude,
like, I wonder
did
if
we
there's
get
a lore
Grinder's real
connection.
name anywhere?
Probably.
I think so. I think at the very beginning.
Okay, I'm gonna have to search Grinder on my...
Star Wars Grinder.
Ersk 3ag.
I don't recognize that last name.
But yeah, so we end up next at the mission for the Battle for Marobe, where that is where all the Faller base people have relocated to. So the Borleas, all the support staff, and the plan is for Implacable, so Apor Tridget ship, Nightcaller, Provocateur, which is a Nebulon B frigate, and Constrictor, which is a Corellian corvette, are going to assault this base, take out the remainder of Faller base's staff, which would include a lot of presumably Rogue Squadron support staff as well. And so the Rogues, so the Wraiths are getting ready to be part of this assault, and then at some point during the battle, they're trying to position themselves in a way to take out everything. All the Imperial forces, but it comes to Tridget's attention before they jump into the system that it is a New Republic trap, that New Republic forces are going to jump in behind them and kill everyone. So
he's like, see ya.
Yeah, so Tridget just decides, you know what, I'm going to stay here, and well, everyone else is already jumping. They get into the system, and so it's just, for Zinja's side, you just have Provocateur and Constrictor, and you have Nightcaller basically 2v1ing until the New Republic reinforcements show up. But they lose their entire bridge crew because they just get annihilated by... I think Provocateur does that.
The ship also has a weird thing with shields. Not in this occasion, but it's like every time a ship enters battle, it doesn't have its shields up right away.
Yeah, they're trying to save power, I guess, where they're only going to put
Yeah.
shields up when they think they're going to be attacked, even though they're assaulting a base. So you'd think they should be
Yeah.
prepared for something, but they don't. So they just destroy the provocateur or the uh, constrictor's bridge, and they then do kind of the same thing they did against the Lancer in I'm going to say Wedge's Gamble.
That's in number 1.
Was that in Rogue Squadron?
I
But
th-
either
I
way,
think
one
it's
of the
in Rogue
earlier
Squadron.
books. And I was wondering how they just cut a frigate in half like that, but since I found out it's a Nebulon B, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Stupid Nebulon. Kind of a well-constituted Imperial fleet, though, all things considered. Star Destroyer, 3 support ships.
Yeah.
Seen worse.
But what did you guys think about Wraith Squadron's casualty rate so far? Because they've only lost Jessamine. They do lose a lot in the Battle of Ession later on, but even up through the Battle of Merope, they only lose Jessamine and I think Fannin's Spleen or something.
Yeah.
They do kind of the same thing they do in Rogue Squadron, where they manage to keep all the pilots alive, but they slaughter like the secondary bridge crew or like whoever else.
Yeah.
Did everyone in Rogue Squadron survive?
They lose like
The Shistavenin?
they always lose like, oh, we got
In
a
the
Bothan
first
in the
book,
squad.
They
See
lose
ya.
Lujane and I think one other
Oh
person.
yeah. Lujane's
And then-
killed when she's asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bror Jace goes missing at the end of Wedge's.
Sure.
No, is that at the end of Wedge's Gamble or one of the earlier ones?
He goes
Either way.
missing at the beginning of Wedge's Gamble, and then isn't it? And then doesn't he show
That
up
sounds
on
right.
Coruscant?
No, he shows up on Typhera in Back to War. I think he's
Oh,
gone
yeah,
for
yeah.
all of Krytos Trap.
I don't know.
But anyways, yeah. So they only
There
lose
are other
Jessamine,
casualties though.
but even though they're like half of them are described as like garbage pilots.
Yeah. Or like just okay. Like yeah, I think you're right. The casualty rate is certainly a bit. It's kind of all the like the problem with these books. It's hard to keep track of 12 characters, and it's even harder if you're killing and replacing them.
Yeah.
Like, I
It
get a
would just
shit
be
memory.
yeah, it'd be impossible to be like, okay, well now Bing Bong the Quarren is Rogue 9 and I have to remember that. And like, yeah, you can't just constantly have a cycling rotation, but I think it's fine for
Yeah.
just for story's sake and sanity's sake.
Towards the later part of the book, they do get a lot more into just like using the call signs, and they only
Awful.
really assign it earlier on a couple times, and then I think grinders and Kells get used a lot more often. But everyone else, it's like I don't know who the hell's who.
Yeah.
It would be nice if they like just put in parentheses like
Yeah,
who they meant.
or even in the dramatis personae at the start, if you could just flip back to that and be like, okay, this is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, in some of the other books, they have the rogue designator, but maybe in book 2 they'll have that. Sure. Because I think in let's see, the other books they will say like rogue 1, but I might be mistaken. I don't know.
I don't think so. Oh crap! I just closed the notes. But in that battle, I'm trying to see if there was anything particularly noteworthy with that. Anything you guys took away from that battle?
That's the attack, right?
Yeah, on Merope, where they lose their entire bridge crew and then they get the commendations afterwards.
I actually thought the capital ship combat was pretty cool because like
Yeah.
it talks about like tactics and how they're like basically what they do is because the CR-90 is still incognito. They don't know that it's New Republic, so they wait until the other ships go by and then they basically just pound the engines and whatnot with turbo lasers so they can't escape. It's pretty cool to see. Like I don't think it's still the I guess the original captain who gets killed, I think, and Face just barely survives because he basically spends most of this book on the bridge too because they use him for their deep fakes.
Yeah, he's
So
on like the rear auxiliary areas, so he manages to just barely survive. And
yeah.
I think it's
He was
Wes
trying to
who
run to
calls
the
to. Yeah,
he was trying to run to the hangar when the ship got blown when they got blown through because he was trying to join the battle, but they'd already vented it, so he couldn't get in his X-wing.
yeah, and like Wes or someone else calls to the ship later, and they're trying to get the command crew, and then Face Ange like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just cool to see like a different perspective. I guess we'll
Yeah.
get more of that with like Solo Command and stuff.
There was one thing leading up to this when the Nightcaller was doing their rounds that we did miss that I wanted to just mention. They were talking about, actually no, it would have been after this with the raid on Ession, so never mind. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there is a mention of how they were going to try to lure Rogue Squadron into a trap after this battle, and that's what kind of spurs the last battle. And they mentioned how they're going to we're going to annihilate them, being Rogue Squadron, even more thoroughly than I destroyed Talon Squadron. Which seems like a weird thing for them to bring up, because like Talon Squadron is not a notable thing.
Yeah,
You'd assume
it was like they're literally just off the. Yeah, that's right.
Like
What did you think? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, they were just trying to make Min worse without even knowing who he is. It just seemed excessive.
Oh yeah, because isn't he on the bridge at that point, or like, because they say something like Min, like he thought he could hear Min grunt or something.
Yeah, Face heard a noise, a muffled grunt from the hallway outside the comm center. Was Donos out
Min's
there?
just over there, just fuming. At this point, though, we've had quite a bit of interaction with the big daddy himself, Mr. Warlord Zinj, mustachioed Warlord Zinj. What did you guys think of his portrayal?
It's not much to go off of yet. I'm just like,
Yeah,
we kept hearing about him, and he's mentioned, right, in the other four books.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And it's just like, I don't know why to fear this guy quite yet.
Yeah. Other than he's got a big super star destroyer.
Yeah.
That he's
kind of a nice
just hiding from
difference.
everyone.
Yeah, and kind of like playing the economy game, like trying to get a little empire set up. He's kind of a nice difference from like Isard though, because he's reasonable. He's got a sense of humor. Like he's not unduly cruel. At least at this point. Like he lets his like subordinates kind of get away with a bit of lip sometimes, and like he's not just like boring and kind of evil to be evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if Trigid had tried a lot of what he says to Zinj with Isard or literally anyone else, he probably would have been like, "Oh, what are you doing? I'm Captain Evil McLordy dude." But Zinj is like, "Okay, yeah, have fun, buddy."
He's like, "You're lucky I'm fat. Don't want to come over there."
But when they're talking about the guy who runs the company with the repulsor lift company that they're gonna get the TIE fighters from, I forget, Raffin or something. Yeah. I looked up the guy's article on Wikipedia because I wanted to see if he was useful for mod stuff. But the when Zinj is talking to Face as Derillian, Zinj mentions, "Oh, he's going to go into a retirement soon," and Face is like, "Oh, should we arrange pushing that up a bit later?" And it's just like, no, like literally, he's going to retire. He's gonna go live in a cottage and write his memoirs, kind. Which was clearly just like a jokey offhand comment about like this is the kind of retirement he's going for. But the Wikipedia article is literally saying it is noted that he planned to retire to a cottage and write his memoirs. Like, no, that isn't what he. And this is why you shouldn't take everything Wikipedia says as gospel.
Yeah, I still am mad at Wikipedia for the whole Jason Solo Darth Kaitis page naming situation, where they insist that he be named Darth Kaitis instead of Jason. Don't like it.
Because he's been redeemed, so he should be Jason.
Yeah, and he spent most of his life as Jason. Like, if you're gonna call Darth Vader Anakin on the page, like, what's the difference? Like, I guess technically the redemption is different, but Jason's kind of like retroactively redeemed.
Yeah,
He's
I was
still
gonna
kind of
say,
a dick in the pool of memories, or whatever.
You think?
I was like,
I don't know,
maybe they named the people after how they were known when they were last alive.
that is the technical, I guess the
But
technical
I would agree with you.
rule.
Jason Solo seems more appropriate.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the whole boobs page thing, which I made a video on.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that, Alex?
Yes.
There's one edit that I made that someone always changes every like 2 or 3 weeks. It's like there's a few. There's one on Force Choke because in in Legends and in canon, you know when Luke goes to Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi, and he waves off the Gamorrean guards.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think that's a Force choke, which I understand. I always thought it was a mind trick, just saying get back. But regardless, I think it's Last Command and a bunch of new canon stuff as well has said explicitly that he's using a mind trick. People think it's a Force choke, and they keep editing the Force choke Wikipedia page to include Luke as one of the notable practitioners, and I keep changing it back, and someone keeps reverting it.
There's no way that was a Force choke. How do you...
I can understand why people think that, because one of the Gamorreans like clutches at his throat.
Yeah.
But
when I was a kid, I still do think that he's just putting his hand up as like a guard, like,
yeah,
because every other Force choke in the series is accompanied by that sound, the
gurgling.
No, like it's almost like a rush of wind, like whenever someone Force chokes, it's like, and it's like a little. I think there's even a little musical cue to it as well. But I understand why, but it's not canon.
Yeah,
it's important.
So after the failed raid on Morobe, they get Nightcaller repaired. They get a new bridge crew, and Darillion Face is still able to convince Zinj and Tridget that they're on their side, because everyone else in the battle conveniently dies. That's Imperial. Darillion escapes, and they're welcomed back into the fold, and they have like a 3-way conference call where Zinj, Tridget, and Darillion are like, oh, we don't even know how they were chasing the Nightcaller, but we're going to discuss with you right now exactly what our plans are to lure in and destroy Rogue Squadron. And I do have to commend Zinj, based like going back to what we were talking about with how he didn't entirely suck, where Darillion was like, we need to destroy a bunch of things at once, and Zinj's like, hey, well, let's not bite off more than we can chew here. Just destroying Rogue Squadron would be just amazing. So.
Yeah, like huge morale boost for the Empire.
So they talk about luring Rogue Squadron into Ession, and that's where we're gonna have our final battle in this book. There were the awarding all the medals of valor and everything to the newly promoted Captain Nightcaller, to Kell for his bravery with Jessamine. And we also get Tyria reinstated as a pilot, which is nice for her as well. Any thoughts on that stuff, guys?
What did Tyria even get? I forget what she did to. Oh, she got in a fight, right? Because she's in kind of like this
Grinder
where
Grinder said he would alter her scores jokingly, and then she beat him up.
Jokingly.
Maybe, arguably, maybe. I don't know. It's debatable.
Yeah, because she was kind of a shit pilot, and then, yeah, her like superior is kind of like her old superior was kind of like giving her. He was like trying to steal X-wings, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He kind of like strong-armed her, basically.
Where he was altering her scores the entire time, and then tried to get her to go along with stealing X-Wings for him, or misappropriating a lot of stuff. And she threatened to expose him, and he's like, oh yeah, if you do that, then I'm going to show everyone what your actual score should have been, and your records were falsified. So you can either let me do this and become the mediocre pilot you were born to be, or
Rude.
you can get kicked out too if you tell anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The book is wrapped up pretty nicely. Maybe a little too nicely with how all the pilots get over their like immense psychological issues.
Well, they wrap that up, and then they have the last battle where they kill off like a third of the squad. So
Yeah, true. I do like I even though I know Wedge isn't gonna die, I still always find it a little stressful when he's in the TIE fighter. You
Yeah,
kinda-
just anyone in a TIE fighter is like, oh god, why?
One shot. Oh god, yeah. You kind of empathize with the Imperial pilots because it's like every single like hero in Rogue Squadron. There's like one scene where they're like, "Oh, he hit me twice with his cannons and my shields were down." It's like if you're in a TIE, you're done, buddy. But yeah, what about you, Corey? You have any thoughts about that last scene before the battle?
Not really. I like Kells stuff. It seems like they're trying to wrap it up there, and then he just needed a chance to run away from the battle, which we'll get to next. But I do like that it kind of brought that back to make sure no one had forgotten that Kells still had these issues, because we'd gone at least 2 chapters without bringing it up.
Yeah, I was thinking it was after the battle that happened. So you're right. He does kind of revert, doesn't he?
Yeah, I actually thought that the book was ending with the Merope stuff, so I was kind of caught off guard by the fact that we went to Ession after that, because I thought Tridget would like survive until the next book at least, but I thought he died in Iron Fist, so
I'm kind of glad he died. I didn't find him to be super compelling, to be honest.
I really appreciated that they killed him.
Yeah,
'cause
I
did
was
not
really-
remember. I was with you. I was like, yeah, he probably survives for a while, like Corrin's old Corsac nemesis. I can't remember his name. But yeah, when they offed him, and in a good way, a cool way, I liked his death.
Yeah. Yeah, except he's like, doesn't he try to like, technically, doesn't he try to give himself up right before he gets blasted by a torpedo?
in like the second before the torpedo hits me, he was like, "Well, about that surrender."
Because Wedge was like, if he surrenders, you have to accept it. So Dona shoots the torpedo before he surrenders.
Yeah. I like during that last battle that General Som and his defender wing comes back from there, and they spend some time in the or they feature in the first 4 books, mostly the first.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron has a
Wild
cameo
Squad.
there. Who's Rogue 2? Would that be Hobby at that point?
I don't know.
never remember.
I don't remember.
But yeah, with this
Because,
last battle,
Tycho would have taken Rogue One, so
Yeah.
it could have been anyone. Although Wedge said he was technically going to command both squadrons, so
well, he was more of a commanding officer position rather than still being Rogue One. But I think they replaced. They would have replaced Wedge with Hobby. Tycho would have taken an actual role in the squadron as squad leader. He took Jansen with him, but I guess that does still leave one open slot. Either way.
yeah. I mean, they name drop a bunch of random. At one point, when they've got like the fake Rogue Squadron at the beginning, they name drop a bunch of rogues who like one who appeared only in like the True Sepakura, which I thought was kind of funny. There's a couple of True Sepakura references as well. What was the other one?
Wedge talked about how he had to shove his hand into that bomb.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there
That
was
was
like
kind
a
of
page and a half about that.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun little callback to like a book that's doesn't get a whole lot of
Yeah.
features after this point.
Yeah, for the battle at Ession, they're basically gonna have Rogue Squadron turn up. It's supposed to be an assault on Rogue Squadron, where they've set it up as a trap to lure in Rogue Squadron, and Rogue Squadron shows up in what was the pirate base of Super Freighter that was used as the pirate base on M29Z34682.
Got them all, bud.
And it was basically going to break up in orbit over Ession. The X-Wings would be part of it, and they'd all fly out and start blowing stuff up, but then Nightcaller is there to help, and a bunch of other fighter elements from the New Republic would show up, including General Crespins and his A-Wings, and I think also General Som and his Y-Wings were there. Basically, all the major squadrons from both parts of the series, and they would be taking out Tridget. I think it's just Tridget and his ISD. They were supposed to have some fighter support from the surface, but Page's commandos had gone in and blown up any access that they had, so they couldn't get their fighter reinforcements. And we do get a lot more with Tridget and Gara Petithel, who is actually a Rogue Squadron.
I don't think it's quite clear at this point what
we're not supposed to know yet, but she kind of shows herself by the end to be an agent of the New Republic, and it doesn't clarify who she is yet, but she's the only competent Imperial in the book, and turns out she's not Imperial. So
yeah, because she's like super competent almost.
Yeah,
like she predicts like multiple things, and the captain, of course, has a crush on her, right?
Yeah.
I
should see if she's amenable to a liaison later, is I believe how he phrases it.
Teach me your lines, master.
She doesn't seem like she'd be too into it, which is what I really like.
That's still a step up from she leaned over and I got a view of her cleavage from Rogue Squadron. Sort of. Not a big upgrade.
But yeah, so I actually really liked how this battle is written. I don't know that there's a lot for us to dissect in the early stages. We get Kell running away from the battle, and Runt kind of chases him down, telling him that's his bad voice, and or his bad mind. And then eventually he thinks about Tyria having to come and shoot him down, so he turns around, and no one seems to really care that much. So good on him.
It's pretty cool when they're fighting the Star Destroyer, because it's like, even though they've got a huge advantage over the ship, it's just so massive, and they've got so little firepower that they're like chipping away at it. Like, it's unshielded, but they're like basically taking chunks out of it with like turbo lasers and torpedoes and stuff until they eventually full on fly an X-Wing in there.
Yeah, Grinder and Fallon, they make a hole in the bottom, and Wedge says like just get out of there, but they decide to fly in and make calm interruption noises by rubbing their microphones while Wedge is telling them to get out of there.
That was funny, yeah. And then they both died.
Yeah, Fallon wanted to be the first person to destroy an ISD by like reaming it apart from the inside. Yeah. So they take out all the internal systems. Tridget gets out, Petithel gets out, and Implacable starts like falling towards the planet. And my favorite line in the book happens at that point, where Nightcaller is kind of in the way between the planet and Implacable, and when Wedge is trying to get the ship out of the way, it's described as Nightcaller shot from beneath the descending capital ship like a bar of soap squirting from under a foot.
It's such a good image. Like, it's kind of cool how the Nightcaller, like how it is during that battle too. Like it's like using, because the sensors are out because of some basically technology they've got installed nearby, and they're hiding their like visual, like they're hiding themselves from appearance with like they're kicking up sand basically with thrusters, isn't it? Like, or are they using? I don't remember if they're using thrusters or because they have like a tractor beam too that they're using. I don't remember which is for which.
I thought the tractor beam was because like they were pointed straight down at the ground, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe the tractor beam was to hold on to
Yeah. I
the
think,
ship.
and then the engines are making the dust go flying everywhere. Kind of cool. Like it's very visual, if you know what I mean.
After Tridget is leaving, there is some disagreement on the Implacable over whether they should surrender or not, because they kind of just want to kill everyone. And then we get the voice of Soontir Fel, who is not actually there, who's telling the Imperial forces that they should take Wedge's offer of just ceasing hostilities, if not actually surrendering. And Petithel sends out the message to chase down Tridget, who's trying to flee in some interceptors. So Donos and Crespin start chasing them down, and that's when we get the line about you have to take the surrender if he tries to, and we get to see some fancy A-wing flying, and ultimately Tridget does explode.
It's pretty awesome, and he manages because Tridget's in he escapes in a very imperial manner. He's got his hidden upgraded TIE interceptor with a hyperdrive and shields and stuff, but not quite as fast as a normal ship. So
yeah, it's pretty reminiscent.
Basically,
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. You're gonna say it's pretty reminiscent of Isard.
Yeah, when Tycho and Korn are chasing her down at the end of the book.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
But we
no
close out
this time. Or other.
Minos gets his revenge, blowing up Tridget, and we close out the book with everyone on Borleas at the famous Borleas beaches, lounging around in their skimpy bathing suits, which the book makes sure to highlight.
Yep.
With Akbar sitting down and
too much chest hair.
Akbar does ask why Wedge isn't wearing a nice skimpy bathing suit, though. Calls it a scrap, I think.
He walks away disappointed as well.
The Admiral climbed awkwardly in. You're still fully dressed, Commander. Shouldn't you be wearing a scrap and enjoying the weather and water as they are?
It's a beautiful Akbar voice.
It's a scrap.
Been doing Star Wars audiobooks in the 1990s. Sorry, I interrupted that.
I'm not really as close to the Wraiths as I am to the Rogues, sir. I think I'd make them uncomfortable. Yeah, because you've been just berating them for 400 pages.
Yeah, like you've exploited their mental weakness and are getting mad at them for it now. Yeah, I'd say they probably don't like you that much.
Yeah, that closes out Wraith Squadron. I guess we can't take. I guess we can take questions from the chat because I have pulled in some people to listen to the live stream, quote unquote. But we did have that one email. If there's any closing thoughts you guys had on the book, like that, I will actually, Alex. We end by ranking the ones we've listened to so far, or the ones we've read so far. And I guess since you haven't been doing that, if you want to just weigh in on where Wraith Squadron kind of fits in your greater hierarchy of Star Wars books.
You know, I'll say, since I just recently read Alphabet Squadron and I really, really loved Alphabet Squadron, then going back to Wraith Squadron, I was like, I wonder if I will like Alphabet Squadron less, because like I recall loving the X-Wing books growing up, and I did read the first four within a few years at least as an adult, but I hadn't read this one as an adult. So reading it, and like I feel like Alphabet Squadron holds up to it, but like yeah, I still really liked Wraith Squadron a lot. So, but it also kind of validated my opinion of Alphabet Squadron for me.
Yeah, Alphabet Squadron is it's definitely set up like it could be an early because you don't get like the whole high flying action of like changing the galaxy or anything, but you don't with Rogue Squadron either, like X-Wing #1 or in this
Yeah,
book.
that's like I kind of recalled the missions being way more grand and important and stuff. And I was like, Alphabet Squadron, like I like the characters a lot. The missions that they were on didn't seem monumental, at least not in
I
the
agree.
first book. But
Yeah,
then
I agree.
reading Wraith Squadron, I was like, I don't know, this isn't a huge important mission either. It's more about the characters, and I still enjoyed it. So they're comparable.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
So our email question from Ian Miller kind of ties into that as well, where he says Austin focuses heavily on developing all 12 members of the ensemble instead of just Wedge and Corn. How do you think this matters in your rankings and enjoyment of the books? So I guess, do you agree with that? And do you think that squadron focus, if it's there, makes it better? Or
I think the book suffers a bit because it doesn't have any character as likable as Corn or as like not bombastic, but as like just as charismatic, I guess, as Corn. Or even I think the secondary rogues are still better. But I agree that like for example, I knew that like Thanen and Face would act a certain way. And I guess even with like main characters in the original 4 book, besides for Korn, I don't know. I did feel kind of more personality, but you do lose having a strong kind of narrative character because Korn is always there. It's either Korn or Wedge, and in this, it's either it's Kell or Wedge, and I definitely prefer the former. I think. What about you?
And I kind of touched on it earlier with how I feel like it doesn't quite go as far with giving the development to the other wraiths as the first Rogue Squadron book does. So even after this, after this first Wraith Squadron book, I don't really feel like we know a lot of the rogues as well as we end up knowing like Oral, who no one's quite as awesome as Oral. Like Runt is no Oral.
I agree. I love Oral.
Yeah, and Oral alone kind of just makes Rogue that much better. But you still kind of get to know the Lujane and Aniri Forge.
Little Biggs.
Yeah.
Little Gavin.
All the rogues, I feel like they get a lot of character development, and I don't know if we're there yet with Wraith Squadron.
Do we see them in the next books? It's like you said you've never read these, right, Corey?
I've never read Iron Fist and Solo Command. I don't remember if I've read Wraith Squadron before. I don't think I had.
Like I don't remember to what degree Rogue Squadron is in the next ones even.
I don't think they are. They get mentioned a bit. I'm actually gonna pull the next ones out and see if they're on the list of characters.
Because it's been ages for me. I read the Rogue Squadron ones the year before last, but I stopped at number 4, so it's been basically since I was a kid since I read these.
Like I don't think we get a lot of them until like iJedi or something again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you get the Rogue Squadron support personnel of Cubber, Chunky, Gate, Squeaky, Tony. Yeah, so
rogues.
It doesn't look like they factor into that very majorly. Solo Command, it does list Tycho, Scotian. Yeah, it lists both squadrons for Solo Command, so I think we do get a lot more of them there.
And of course, I think we'll probably see them in Courtship of Princess Leia too. Well, not actually because it came first, but
actually, I'd imagine
like
Isard's Revenge would be heavily rogue, right?
Yeah, because Isard's Revenge, I remember, has a lot of Corrin chapters in it. Because like Corrin meets Isard.
And so I guess Justin, where's Wraith Squadron gonna fall on your rankings?
I'm still
so
at a
far?
power. Can you read me my rankings?
Yeah, so right now, Justin's rankings go Flaggies in first position, then Rogue Squadron, Back to War, Wedge's Gamble, Truce of Bakura, and Krytos Trap. Mine are the same except switch. Actually, mine go Plagueis, Back to War, Rogue Squadron, Wedge's Gamble, Truce of Bakura, Krytos Trap.
I had Krytos, or sorry, I had Backdoor after Wedge's Gamble, right?
No, you had Back to War, then Wedge's Gamble.
Okay.
You can switch if you want. If it's really sunk in over the last 2 weeks, you can put Backdoor down 1 if you want to change where the back door is.
This is tough. For me, this is either it's either my third or my fourth favorite of the X-Wing books. I really liked it though. I'm excited to see one thing I really noticed in this book. It's only a little scene, but the way that Alston wrote Han and Chewie was way better than they've been written so far. So I'm just like the way Chewie exits the Falcon and lets out a big roar, and it's like whether that was to say something or just claim it as Wookiee territory. I was like, that sounds just like something Chewie would do. And the way they write Han and stuff, it's just yeah. So I'm excited to see more of the sort of the legacy characters brought in. For me, I guess I really liked it, but I think I'd put it right under Wedge's.
All right, so you're gonna put it 5th overall for you. So it'll be Plagueis, Rogue Squadron, Back to War, Wedge's Gamble, Wraith Squadron, Truce of Bakura, and then Krytos Trap.
That sounds harsh, but I really love those 5.
All right.
What about you?
I guess for me, I'm probably gonna put it above Truce of Bakura. So yeah, I guess that puts it number 5 for me as well. So I'd be at Plagueis, Back to War, Rogue Squadron, Wedge's Gamble, Wraith Squadron, Bakura, Krytos.
So Alex, you can't do this, but what would you what are say
that just sounds
3...
so harsh. Oh, you can't do
this. Well, you can. I just figure you probably don't remember. If you know the those books that we mentioned, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If not, maybe just 3 Legends books you really like.
Mention what you've read again.
Plagueis, Rogue Squadron 1 to 4, this, and Truce of Bakura.
All right, Plagueis goes. Man, that's tough. I might put Rogue Squadron at the top, and then Plagueis. The other 3.
I'll send you the list if you want to have a visualization there.
I'm trying to decide. The other 3 X-Wing books kind of run together for me. I really like the Liberation of Coruscant, though, so I'd probably put Wedge's Gamble next. Then, I remember not being as into Krytos and Back to War, so I might put Wraith Squadron below Wedge's Gamble, and then Krytos, Back to War, and Truce of Bakura definitely goes at the bottom for me. I remember I read that one in the past 4 years or so, and I remember just not being into it, which surprised me, because I remember when I was a kid reading all the books, I just didn't care at all. I was like, I love all of this, but reading it again, I was like, this is kind of boring.
It's pretty dull, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you don't like big dinosaurs.
I think just the amount of nothing that happens in Krytos Trap is the only thing that saves Truce of Bakura from being at the bottom of our list.
So I think that's basically it. Corey, so next we're gonna go straight on. We're gonna keep on Wraith Squadron, right? So we're gonna keep on this sort of trilogy. Then what's our plan? Are we gonna do Courtship and then Thrawn, or do you want to throw Tatooine Ghost in there? Do you want to throw a callback or something? What do you think?
I think we're definitely gonna do Solo Command and Iron Fist next. Then we could even possibly do a jump back to something else, and then go straight into Thrawn and save Courtship and Tatooine Ghost for a future thing, so we're not staying too close in the time period. Maybe.
Yeah, but then we'll never find out the end of Zinj.
That's true.
We can
no
just do
people
the
even-
one chapter.
We're gonna have a whole episode on one chapter of courtship.
I really like the font they use, the third edition.
Yeah, I guess
Anyway,
we'll
we'll
probably
figure
do
it out.
something like that. But we're heading towards the Thrawn trilogy there. But I think we'll know with each episode what the following one's gonna be, and I think that's good enough.
Yep. So thanks a bunch, Alex, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
Literally any time
Yeah, it
you
was
want
fun.
to join. We know you're a busy man, but anytime you want to join us, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
You're a
Well,
nice voice of reason among
I have
us idiots.
until November probably when the floodgates open and then everything comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the technical difficulties this episode, so thanks for sticking with us through that, and thanks to everyone who listened and watched through that. Sorry for the lack of a stream there.
Yikes.
But yeah,
Oh, I thought I lost you.
No.
I was like, oh crap, my phone. I thought my phone died. Nope, just a silence. I don't think I got anything else to say. I enjoyed this book. It was fun reading it. I look forward to not next week, the week after.
yep, same here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
See you guys next time.
The whole Senate.